Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth, Thursday Torah Talks, 7:30 p.m. every single Thursday. Welcome. We got an interesting conversation tonight where we looked in the Parashat. We looked at some very powerful scriptures. Our Parashat, actually it's a double Parashat tonight, Parashat Matot and Parashat Masei. Matot is tribes, and we're going to learn some interesting things about Israel, the nation Israel, or the 12 tribes, or Jacob. And then Parashat Masei, their journeys. Oftentimes, you can learn about people when you journey with them, when you spend time with them on a journey. The best place, let me say this is what I believe. The best time or place or opportunity to learn about what kind of people you with, take a journey with them. Take a trip. If you can stand folk on a 3-day trip, drive from California to New York, California to Florida, California to Washington, D.C., somewhere on the East Coast, which takes about 3, maybe 4 days driving if you're taking rest. Take a trip in a car. Don't fly. Take a trip in a car with them where you're with just you and that group of people or those two people. You want to test your marriage? Drive from one place to another more than 3 hours, more than 2 days away. And you will find out a lot about those individuals. All right. And so this is the same thing that we see in our Torah Parashat tonight. Through the journeys of the Israelites, we see what kinds of tribes, what kind of people are within those tribes. Same thing with the congregation. Take a journey with them towards a goal, and you will definitely find out what kind of people you are dwelling with. All right. And so tonight, guys, I want to start off like I usually do with controversy. But a little interesting conversation, I should say. That's how I should put it. An interesting conversation. And so I want to raise this question it's actually a topic that I really want us to kind of talk about a little bit first, because it captures the entire, I believe, concept of what our Parashat tonight is about. And it's a common theme, and it's also a metaphor. It's a common theme, and it's a metaphor. And so I want us to consider tonight this topic. And I want you to look at this topic when I put it up here. And I want you to share, what do you gather from this topic? And here it is. Unfaithfulness. Well, what do you know about unfaithfulness? What kinds of experiences have you had that you labeled and said, you know what? That is an example of unfaithfulness. Well, what is unfaithfulness? It's also, this word unfaithful is not only, like I said, a theme, but it's also a metaphor. It's a metaphor. And so I want you to think of it in literal terms also, which is a theme, which means there are lessons that you can learn from unfaithfulness, whether you being an active agent in being unfaithful or whether you were a passive agent of unfaithfulness. And so that's the thematic aspect. What did you learn from that? And then there's a metaphorical aspect also. What does unfaithfulness represent? What does it represent? So a metaphor is, you know what a metaphor is. We have similes and metaphors. Similes are used to say that one thing is like another thing, but a metaphor is to say that one thing is something else. And so I want you to think of, what does this metaphor of unfaithfulness point to? It points to a bigger or a larger concept. And so I have a lot of examples. Oh my goodness, I have a lot of examples. But I want to start with you. I want you guys to chime in, jump in, um, and give, again, two aspects. Keep it clear. I want to be clear because I want you going all over here to the left and right. The thematic example of unfaithfulness means you've learned a lesson from something in your life, an experience where either you were the active agent or the passive agent. You actively were unfaithful, or you were passively, you received some unfaithfulness. So that's one. Then we're going to look at the metaphorical. Give an example of a metaphorical understanding of unfaithfulness. What does it point to? What is the bigger picture of this unfaithfulness? All right, blessings. Blessings. Let's hear from you. What say you?
Blessings, shalom.
Blessings.
So unfaithfulness, uh, you're saying a personal, um, you want us to give a personal experience, correct?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a personal experience. Thematically, you know, something that either
Or it
happened to
could be
you.
hypothetical.
Yeah, it could be hypothetical or it could be literal, an actual experience. So thematically, it's going to equal.
I got the thing. Okay. So it could be literal or hypothetical. So unfaithfulness, which way will I go? I suppose someone being cheated on, if you're in a relationship with someone, and
Mm-hmm.
being unfaithful is them hanging out with someone else, dating someone else, whether it's slightly sneaky or under your nose, or just blatantly, you know, um, in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, that can be taken either way. A lot of people have experienced it, some maybe not. So that's theoretically. I don't think I've experienced it blatantly in my face, but yes, I have experienced personally unfaithfulness, as far as being cheated on, thinking that you're in this one-to-one relationship with this person, going, it's just you two, but really the other person is out, you know,
Okay.
with other people, persons or people. So that's an experience. Let's see. So metaphorically, unfaithfulness, which would point to the bigger picture of, I would say yes, it's completely our relationship with God, and it still is on the
Mm-hmm.
same. It's the same thing. It's still about relationships. Um, our relationship with God, Yah, says that we are going to follow His instructions, meaning love Him and do the things that He wants us to do, and not do the things that He doesn't want us to do. And the way that we, as a people, are unfaithful is by going against that,
Mm-hmm.
just going against that. So it can, the metaphor is, which comes up often in the Bible when He says Israel, He calls Israel a she.
Mm-hmm.
We know Israel was Jacob, so Israel went a whoring, meaning not just one person, but several of the people were
Mm-hmm.
out worshiping the Baals, the Balaams, the idols, participating in their sexual activities. So, and not only that, just the worship in general, and doing things the way they do it, eating the food that they eat.
Mm-hmm.
When it's clearly said in Leviticus what we are to eat and not to eat. practicing divinations and doing things of the sort. So I believe that metaphorically points to the bigger picture as far as unfaithfulness is concerned, because he's speaking about a whole group of people which are in a relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we cheating on them every time. We cheating on
Man. And not just cheating, but a whoring. There's a difference in cheating, but then you could go so far into cheating where you just hone it. You're constantly pursuing this unfaithfulness. There's the mentality of unfaithfulness um, is
it's
I mean,
blatant. It's in your face. Don't care.
abs-
Just like the woman with pink house.
absolutely, absolutely, and just like exactly, and as a matter of fact, going back to Numbers 32, and then Joshua 22, they bring up the same idea of the sin of Baal Peor. They never got it. I think in one of those verses it said, we're still recovering from the sin of Baal Peor. And so this is a serious, serious matter, and I'm going to jump into it. Anyone else? Brother Mark, you want to share your ideas, or anyone else would like to share?
What was Joshua 22 real quick?
So what I did was, after listening to Numbers 32, I was like, wait a minute, is this the end of the story? It didn't, mention, it just seemed like it didn't mention. So I searched and found the rest of the story of Numbers 32 and Joshua 22. Very interesting. And so in Numbers 32, it talks about the three tribes, Manasseh, the half tribe of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, how they did not want to go into the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
And it talked about why, it explained why. And so I did have a question for us regarding that, but I was going to get into that a little bit later. I just kind of brought it up.
That's fine.
Oh no. So I'm gonna jump right into that, because I'm gonna add, it's related to unfaithfulness also. And so
We didn't. I'm sorry. I had jumped in with a question. I don't know if Mark was able to respond.
oh, that's okay.
Blessing.
Blessing.
Man, this is a topic, boy. That's
Mm-hmm.
a topic. But I do want to say that being faithful, being unfaithful, we can also say that being faithful is definitely the concept of, it's rooted in having a deep commitment towards someone. We can just say someone. It could be like when we say Yah, or a spouse, or someone, but it's a commitment. But then you can say that it is a really close commitment to someone, a closeness, a special closeness. I mean, something very special, a unique type of closeness that is designated only for one particular individual or thing. So I was just saying, like, to be unfaithful, and then to go against, to break, to go contrary to the commitment, to go contrary to the closeness that you has designated for one particular thing. Or a person. It's to be treacherous. Yeah. So I just want to let you know, like, so yeah, to like, give me your spouse. It could actually be, you could be unfaithful to your spouse, and you could be unfaithful to your betrothed. Those who, you say, you before you even get the ring. I mean, before you even go before y'all and make that covenant, you do expect even your bride or your, the way that you say you're going to marry, that they would have, that they will be willing to be, to present themselves in a way where they are going to represent you, and there's a special closeness that's just that is only designated for you. It's like a unique, there's a unique bond and a closeness that is designated for you, and so but then that can be violated, and and that's how you know that your unfaithfulness also can root in the person, the victim of it, that's feeling this unfaithfulness will feel or should feel jealousy. There's this feeling beyond just anger, but there's like I think that's where the jealousy is rooted in too, because this commitment that's given or that's supposed to be agreed upon is so close to that, it's supposed to be so close with that individual, that jealousy can result in the person being unfaithful, because that's why I just wanted to bring that up too. So I just wanted to just talk about that. I've experienced stuff like that. I don't want to say that. So not everybody can get me jealous. Now I just want to say that. So meaning that not everybody has been that close to me like that, where I've been in so close, and we made a unique commitment, and to the point where there's this feeling inside of like, man, like, why wasn't I good enough to be that close? I mean, to be the only one that could be that close to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there should have been nobody. I thought I was the only one. That's like guys would feel, because you say I am a jealous, because there's a closeness he wants to have, but he doesn't want nobody else in that space. Just like when we get close and we make a commitment, marriage is definitely a good example. But we don't want nobody. It's like a unique, special, and when nobody violates that, oh my goodness, how much joy! It's one of the deepest relationships you could have with somebody. It's the close, like it's the one of the deepest. I would say that would be the closeness of a commitment of being married. So I just wanted to say, or that closeness with God, that's the closest. But with the opposite, with the human being, I believe it is marriage, because when you tap into unfaithfulness on that, boy, you can't even, like, that emotion of jealousy is a unique emotion. We can feel it. I felt it before. Even like, if let's say that one of my children, if they decided to treat somebody else as a father and show somebody the affection of a father more than me, like just like, oh, this is my dad. Like, no, now I can feel it there, but it ain't nothing like when your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, based on that, brother, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to kind of elevate it a little bit. I'm going to ask this question right here. Is love supposed to hurt? Is it supposed to hurt? We think about this. I want you to think about it. Don't jump on this so too fast. Think about it, because Yah chose to love us first, correct?
Yeah.
He loved us first. That's a biblical, principle that, the scriptures talk about it. And, it's, I think about Hosea, And what Hosea or Abiyah, I don't want to say forced, but allowed him to experience, you know, and the scriptures clearly talk about, this, this aspect about how Yah loved us first. There's no fear in love, but perfect love. And we know this word perfect, I believe it's the word teleos, or has some kind of root of teleos. Yeah, teleos here. And we know that this means maturing. It doesn't mean, perfect as in sinless, but it means mature. And we can look this perfect love up. Brings to an end a completeness, a maturing, full grown adult, full age, mature, it could be, bringing to an end. But I believe in this context is dealing with, maturity. And the text says this, very interesting, that perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. Fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love or mature in love. We love him. Why? Because he first loved us. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. You lying, dog. Straight up. If you hate other people, and you say at the same time, I love Yah, you're lying. You don't love Yah. For he that loveth not his brother, whom we see every single day, how can he love God whom we have not seen? And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God loves his brother also. But I want to focus on this verse 19. We love him because he first loved us. How it is the love that Yah giving us supposed to hurt him? Or does it hurt him? Does your love hurt Yah? That's a big one. That's a big question. Think about this in your relationships with, your brother. Does the way you love them, or your sister, does the way you love them hurt them? Think about that. Is love supposed to hurt? What do you guys think? Because it's going to lead me to another question, but I want us to look at this just for a brief while as we get ready to jump into the Parashat. This is a huge part of this Parashat. Is love supposed to hurt?
I would say no.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Do we all agree?
I mean, I would say no, it's not supposed to hurt. I know us living, for example, if we lose a loved one, whether it's a parent or a child or a sibling,
Mm-hmm.
we know life and death is a part of life. We don't live forever. So I think in that sense, it's natural to care enough and miss them. But I mean, it it also says we're supposed to be joyous, when they leave here,
Mm-hmm.
and to suffer no more, in this life. But I think I think we don't hurt for them leaving. I think we hurt for us missing them leaving. Right. So like
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's selfish or what.
Hmm.
Um I mean, because that's all I can. I know we hurt when we lose people to death that are close to us, you know, uh, in that direct family. Like husband, wife, mother, father, sister, brother, child, grandparent. That family unit, even best friend, somebody you grew up with, like, people really hurt when they pass away. But
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't say that's a bad hurt, and I'm not sure if that's a selfish hurt. But it's because we love them,
Hmm.
that emotion is there, because if we didn't care about them, then why would we be sad?
Yeah. Well, if we look at this chapter in First Corinthians, I believe this is one of the most extensive explanations of what love is supposed to be like. We all know it. We call it the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. Though I speak in the tongues of men and have not love or charity, I am become as a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so I can remove mountains and have not love, I'm nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, I sacrifice myself, and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. Then he goes on to explain from verse 4 all the way down about what love is supposed to be like. Love suffereth long. Love is kind. I'm not going to say anything about love hurting in here. Charity envieth not. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself. It's not puffed up. It's not unseemly. It doesn't seek her own. It's not easily provoked. Brother Mark was saying that. Thinketh no evil. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopeth all things, and endureth all things. Love never fails. That's an awesome t-shirt right there, idea. But whether there be prophecies, they're going to fail. You got false prophets. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Languages, certain, okay. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, and that which is in part is done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when we became mature, did we put away childish things? Is when you love someone and you hurt them, are you still immature? Are you mature enough to where your love doesn't hurt people? And if it has, is it healing after you love someone and they're unfaithful to you? I believe there is healing after being unfaithful. Yah tells us to come. Let us, have this conversation. Let us reason together. I will take your sins and put them as far as the east is from the west. And so there is healing. But I want to deal with one more thing. And here it is. Here it is. Because this is a form of unfaithfulness too. What does friendship with the world look like?
Enmity with Yah.
Okay. All right. What about this? Does it look like this? When we pursue the world's ideals, their morals, their goals, and the purpose that the world has, when we're in active pursuit of those things, that's friendship with the world. And when we do these things, we're being unfaithful. That's what James says, right? Now, I want to show you something. And now I'm going to use the scripture. So we were looking at James chapter 4, which brought up this whole idea of unfaithfulness. Friendship with the world is enmity or hatred towards Yah. And then there was something in Jeremiah chapter 2 that really demonstrated complete unfaithfulness. You guys remember reading Jeremiah 2, and I'm going to jump back to the Torah in Numbers in just a second. because he talks about something here about, hold on, let me get to it, where he talks about the Tigris and the Euphrates, which is very important. Oh, here it is. Here is it right here. Let me see. Yeah, Jeremiah 2. Oh, yeah, Jeremiah 2 and 17. Hast thou not procured this unto thyself, in that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, been unfaithful to the Lord thy God when he led thee by the way? And now what hast thou to do in the way of Egypt? To drink from the waters of Sihor? Or what hast thou to do in the way? Now this word Sihor, it should be the Nile. And then he talks about what has thou to do in the way of Assyria, to drink from the waters of the river. Now we know that river is the river Euphrates. Now let's see if this Sihor is the Nile. I believe it is, because he's talking about the waters of Sihor. I believe he's talking about the Nile river there. At least he should be. The waters of Sihor. Yep, the Nile. Right here. A river or canal east, on the east border of Egypt, and a branch of the Nile. Okay, it's a branch of the Nile. So it's actually referring to the Nile. Some of your translations may even say the Nile. Does any of your guys' translations say the Nile River?
What is this verse again?
Jeremiah 2 and 18. Let me go to tools and then go to Bibles. Yep. Some of them say the waters of Sihor, but if you look at the NIV, Egypt, to drink from the waters of the Nile. Right here. Okay. But in the Hebrew, it is Sihor, Shihor, or it's a branch of the Nile. The ESV, to drink from the waters of the Nile. The CSB, the waters of the Nile also. NASB. Okay, so we could do, so it's a branch of the Nile. But here's the issue that this is bringing up again. And now what has that to do with Egypt? Unfaithfulness. With Assyria, unfaithfulness. Now remember, these were the places of captivity. Remember, Israel had a problem with going back to Egypt. They wanted to go back in the wilderness when they were traveling through. They said, "Have you brought us out here to die?" We had leaks. We had all these things in Egypt. Verse 19, then thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backslidings, unfaithfulness, shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that thou hast forsaken or been unfaithful to the Lord thy God, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord of hosts. And then I want to go to this verse 18, which is very important because it's talking about Egypt and Assyria, the Nile and the Euphrates. Now, this is going to get a little deep, but I want you to see this. In Genesis 12, verse 3, we know Genesis 12 and 1 is where the Lord spoke to Abram and said, hey, leave your country, go to a place I'm going to show you. And we know the place that he showed Abram is in verse 3. Or actually, hold on. Is it verse? Hold on, I just saw Canaan here. Oh, yeah, here it is, verse 5. And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all the substance that they had and gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go to the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. Then verse 6 says, and Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. Now, where does he say he's going to give this to Abraham? Is it verse? I can't remember what verse is that. Hold on. Yeah, verse 7. If you look at verse 7, in Genesis 12, verse 7 says, and the Lord appeared unto Abram and said unto him, unto thy seed I will give this land. All right, the land of Canaan. Okay, but then in Genesis chapter 15, and we all know what verse he expands on the promise. See, this is the covenant, but he expands on the already covenant, the initial covenant of giving him that land. Notice what he says here. In the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram. He expanded on the covenant in Genesis 12, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land. Now he describes where. From the river of Egypt, which is the Nile, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. That is a huge piece of land. That is a huge piece of land that I don't even think it shows it on this map here. But let me show you how large that is. Because I'm going somewhere, guys. I want you to see this, and I'm going to give you guys a chance to share your thoughts. But I want you guys to see this, and because it's huge. From the river Euphrates to okay, so if you look at this here, where did you go? Don't leave me. Okay, so I believe this is the Euphrates. This is the Nile. This green here, I believe, is the Nile River. And somewhere over here is the river Euphrates. This is not a good map showing what I'm looking for here. So let me nope. I should have had this prepared, but this is just coming to me here. Okay. So oh yes. So now this shows the river of Egypt right here, but it's not showing the Euphrates, man. But this is a lot of land from all the way over here, and the river Euphrates is somewhere over here, close to Assyria, somewhere over in this area. But that's interesting that he says this in verse 18. And then when we look back in Numbers chapter 2, we see, and I want to ask this question, not Numbers 2, but Numbers 32. We see that 3 tribes, and I want to bring this up here. They wanted to stay on the east side of the Jordan. They didn't want to enter into the inheritance that Yah promised them. Let's see, where is that at? That's in 32. Oh yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, actually it starts off right at the beginning. Now the children of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh had a very great multitude of cattle, and when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, which is on the east side of the river Jordan, remember they're supposed to cross the river Jordan and go into the land, that behold, the place was a place for cattle, like there was no place for cattle in the promised land. Verse 2, the children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spoke to Moses and to Eleazar the priest, and said unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Ataroth and Dibon and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon and Elealah and Shebam and Nebo and Beon, even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel, is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. Look at this logic. Therefore, said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, not in the Lord's sight, but in Moses and Eleazar's sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for a possession, and bring us not over the Jordan. Look at this. Is this unfaithfulness? And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war, and you shall sit here? I want to ask this question here. When Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh wanted to, it said clearly they did not want to go into the land. They wanted to stay right here in verse 5. Don't bring us not in over the Jordan. We don't want to go over the Jordan. We don't want to go to the place where Yah promised to give you this land, the place that he promised that will be flowing with milk and honey, the place that he promised where he sent the spies, and 10 of them came. He sent 12, but 10 of them came back with a negative report. They said, we don't want to go over there, verse 5. So my question is, and then Moses begins to go back to Kadesh Barnea when they sent the spies over. And 2 of them came back, remember that, with a negative report. And the anger of the Lord was kindled, except Caleb and Joshua. Those were the only 2 that followed him. It says in verse 12, right here, they were the only 2 that wholly followed the Lord completely. Okay? They were the only 2 that wholly, okay, in fullness, abundance. All right? They were the only ones that totally consecrated themselves to following. Man, I mean, is this in the passive too? Let's see. This is the Pael. So it's intense, completed action. They were the only ones that made up their minds. Look at what the Pael says about holy. They were the only ones to completely satisfy. The only ones that completely fulfilled. That was interesting. And so my question is, were they in the will of Yah? When they said, we don't want to go, in verse 5, don't bring us into the land of Jordan. Now, tying this up, was this unfaithfulness? Can we say that these three tribes were showing a level of unfaithfulness? Now, watch this. Keep in mind. Now, that's why you got to read Joshua 22, because in Joshua 22, when we get down here, in look what he says here, verse 16. And they came near unto him and said, we will build sheepfolds here, not in the land of Canaan of promise, but in Gilead. We will build sheepfolds here for our cattle and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves, look at this, will go ready armed before the children of Israel until we have brought them unto their place. Look at this separation, this division. The Lord, Abba Yah said, no, this is a land for all 12 tribes. But we have 3 tribes, actually 2.5, because it was Gad, Reuben, and the half tribe of Manasseh. And our little ones shall dwell in the fenced cities because of the inhabitants of the land. Watch this. We will not return unto our houses that are in Gilead, not in the promised land, until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them. Look at this. We don't want to be unified. We don't want to obey. We don't want to be faithful to Abba Yah's promise. We don't want to inherit with them on yonder side of the Jordan or forward, because of our inheritance is fallen to us on this side. We on the east side, dog. East side? Look what they saying here. We want to be on the east side of the Jordan. Now watch this. This is, what kind of sense do you guys make of this? Were they in the will of Yah for doing this? And is this an example of unfaithfulness? Because it seemed like they said, look, we're not going to be obedient and go in, but we're going to make a sacrifice and go and fight until the rest of the children of Israel are in the land, and then we're going to go back to the land on the east side of the Jordan. They said tripping already. What say you?
I was going to say, were they in the will? Not particularly, since they didn't want to cross over. Were they in the will? And then what was the other question?
Is this an example of unfaithfulness?
I think that's tricky because they were willing to fight, but I do see how you pointed out. They said the children of Israel till they're brought into their land, so it does sound like a separation. And then it made me think of how Israel and Judah separated north and south, right? Later on, but it was Judah and Benjamin versus the other 10 tribes. So I don't know, to some degree I feel like that was the beginning of people feeling like they could separate. Like, we not really 12 tribes. Oh, they got to stay over there with their sheep and them. Y'all over there tripping with y'all high places. We over here trying not to. But they was still whoring too, So I think that they were trying to compromise.
Big time, right?
Trying to compromise with God, yeah, and like, I mean, it was allowed. It was like the beginning of that division, I feel.
Oh, yeah. Now look in Joshua. This is why Joshua 22 is important. Now Joshua is the one. Moses was in Numbers, but now look at Joshua. Then Joshua called the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and said unto them, you have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not left your brethren these many days unto this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God hath given rest unto your brethren, which were the other tribes, as he promised them. Therefore now return ye and get you unto your tents and unto the land of your possession, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you. Wait a minute. On the other side of the Jordan. Do you see what's happening here? This unfaithfulness begins with selfishness. Unfaithfulness begins with being selfish. They didn't want to do it how Yah said that all of them are going to go cross over. And watch this. Here's the scary part. Verse 5. But take diligent heed to do the commandment and the law, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, charged you to love the Lord our God and to walk in all his ways and to keep his commandments and to cleave unto him and to serve him with all your heart. So how could they do this? See, this is us right here, guys. This is us. We come up with a different way of doing Yah's plan, but we at the same time say we can be faithful to all the commands. Is that a contradiction? And then look at leadership. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. What? What happened to Joshua? Can I tell you what happened to Joshua? Many people who think that they are leaders, they're not really leaders. They're still following. You cannot bless disobedience. It happens all the time in congregations. Well, here, let me bless this baby out of, out of wedlock births. Well, let me christen this baby right in there. Let me bless this baby and this couple who are not married, but I'm going to bless them anyway. I'm going to bless them because they're not doing the will of Yah. But in my sight, no one's perfect. They're doing their best. I mean, we're all human. It's not the baby's fault. Joshua blessed them for their disobedience. Abba Yah said that they were to cross over into the land. They came up with a different way. Isn't that us all day? We come up with a different way to do Yah's will. Now, let me show you. Look at Joshua in chapter 22. He blessed them. Now, this is why I say it's a contradiction. Go back to Joshua chapter 1. Really, Joshua? What happened to this dude? What happened to this dude? When Joshua assumes a command, then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the host and command the people, saying, prepare you victuals, for within 3 days you shall pass over the Jordan, to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you to possess it. 3 days. This was 3 days. And then the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh spoke to Joshua, saying, remember the word which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, saying, the Lord your God hath given you rest and hath given you this land. What? Look at this. They were already starting to rebel. Already starting. And then look at this. And they answered Joshua, saying, all that thou commandest us, we will do. And whichever and whithersoever thou sendest us, we will go. That's a lie. We know it's a lie because in chapter 22, we saw them saying, no, we don't want to go over there. What happened to this Joshua in verse 111? And 3 days later, in Joshua 22, we see this dude. In verse 6, blessing them for not going over. Y'all sort this out. What are your thoughts? You can either let me back on this or you can go in your own direction.
I would like to jump in, please.
Oh, yes.
So, okay. I read down a little further. Verse 9 says, so the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh returned home.
Are you in Joshua 1? Where are you?
22. Joshua 22 and 9.
Oh, 9. Okay, sorry.
Hold on, Rick. Joshua 22:9 reads, so the people of Reuben and the people of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh returned home, parting from the people of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, their own land, of which they had possessed themselves by command of the Lord through Moses. So that means that, the way that I'm reading it sounds like it was allowed. It sounded like Moses. It didn't specifically state like usually it'll say like Moses went to the Lord to see what he would say.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm curious, like it sounds to me as though it was allowed. They made their case known to Yah, like, hey, this seemed like good since they acquired all that plunder. Mm-hmm. They had all these additional sheep and cow, and because those tribes are the one that tended them, I guess a lot of them. I'm speculating here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? This is good since we got all these extra sheep in them, right? Let me go talk to Moses and see what he say, what the Lord gonna say. So I'm wondering, is this like it was allowed? It sounded like it was allowed. They made their case just like the daughters of Zelophehad said, why should we not have an inheritance? Because our father had no sons. So they pleaded their case to Moses, and he went to Yah, and then he said, okay, you know what, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go on and get him a portion of this inheritance as well. And that comes up again at the end of this portion too, because they were concerned about the inheritances being swapped between the tribes, because the daughters had that piece. So that was at the end of this portion. But it also goes on to say in Joshua 22, they had built the altar, and that's when they start funking with each other.
Right.
They built that altar on the other side, and they was like, man, we had enough problems at Balaam Peor. Y'all over here tripping. Why not build the altar, right? So I feel a little perplexed about the situation, because it seems like they went about it the right way by going to Moses at least and asking. They didn't just say, no, we're not going to go fight with you. We still going to fight, but this seemed like a better place, even though y'all said this is what you were supposed to acquire, but they had just got that 600 something thousand, however many sheep and cattle and 32,000 people. That's a lot. That's a lot to acquire. And the 32,000 was just the girls. They ended up killing the women and the little boys.
Plus,
had left 32,000 women, plus all those 600,000 of the cattle and stuff.
That was a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
It seemed like they were pleading their case, but then they because they were separate from Yah, they was quick to build that altar, and it was like it's like I don't know if there was divisiveness in their heart when they first initially asked for it. Like it seemed like it wasn't, but it was so easy to do something different as soon as they had that separation from Yah. So that's what I want to let me back. I think about
that's an important point. But let me say this, and then Brother Mark, you can go ahead and jump in. Look at Deuteronomy 3:18 through 20. It says, "And I commanded you at the time, saying, the Lord your God hath given you this land to possess it. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, the children of Israel, all that are meet for the war, but your wives, your little ones, and your cattle. For I know that you have much cattle, shall abide in your cities, which I have given you," not the ones that you chose for yourself, "until the Lord have given rest unto your brethren, as well as unto you, and until they also possess the land which the Lord your God hath given you, them beyond the Jordan," not on the east side of the Jordan, but beyond the Jordan, "and then you shall return every man unto his possessions, which I have given you." See, this is direct unfaithfulness and rebellion against the command of the Lord, the command that he gave. Now, here's the thing I want to bring up, and Brother Mark, you can jump in on that. Here's the thing. Just because it's okay in our sight does not mean it's the will of Yah. The rest that they settled for, see, there's something about us wanting to settle for less than what Yah wants to give us. There's something about us taking our own idea of rest instead of taking his idea of rest. There's something about us coming up with leaning to our own understanding of how to do Yah's will instead of doing it the way he said it. That's unfaithfulness. Blessings, Brother Mark.
blessings. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Hey, I was going to say that I agree. I definitely agree that going against God's will is unfaithfulness, and also I agree with Sister Benz, also because even though we do have the command where he says you will continue, your inheritance will be when you cross the land. And then you even see later how he starts to allot their inheritance, like in different parts of the borders. You start dealing with the borders of Israel, and this person will inherit. I see that. But the moment they decided to see that, the moment that some of these tribes right here that you brought out, Gad, Reuben, right? But Moses said to the people of Gad and the people of Reuben, "Shall your brothers go to the war while you sit here?
Mm-hmm.
Why will you discourage the hearts of the people?" And then when he said that, and then your fathers did this when they sent them back to Kadesh. So basically, he's questioning their motives. We see motives of Moses. He's not, because they approached him, but then Moses is challenging their motives behind what they are trying to do, because it appears that they're going down the same rabbit hole as their fathers. So why would you discourage the people? Verse 7, Numbers chapter 32 and 7, because he's not immediately agreeing. You see that he's challenging it. Why would you discourage the people's heart of the people, or discourage the heart of the people from going up to the land that the Lord would give them. Because because Moses is with the direction of the Lord. Moses, and you see Moses, sees, like you said, Moses is there. He's ready to go forward and carry out the command. And then he's also jamming up the motive, because he's saying that if this is your motive, then what you're trying to do, then this is what's going to result in. You're going to repeat the same thing as your fathers. Discourage people. Your fathers did this when they sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. Right? He continues to go down. And verse 10, and the Lord's anger was kindled. He's basically reminding them, this is the direction you're going. Surely this man came up. And then you continue to go down. And then verse 15, they came there to him and said, we will build. He tell them what we will do. So now they're trying to give their right. Verse 16, they're trying to give their explanation of why they're trying to do it.
Yeah.
So the thing is, in 16, see, the thing is, even though they have their heart, they're in their feelings right now. and so they're in their feelings, and they are trying to explain their intent on why they are trying to do this, or why they. So the thing is, they're not a pessimism yet. They haven't made a final decision saying, they're not saying we won't do this. They're saying, they're trying to say, how about this? Is it okay for this? They're trying to see if they could. Is there any other exceptions? They're trying to see if there's, that's what I want to say. Is there any other exceptions beyond what we have been commended? That's the thing.
But see, they did. See, when you read Joshua 22, in Numbers 32, you don't see that full commitment yet. Okay. But when you read Joshua 22, that's when you see it. Because it says in Joshua 22:6, Joshua blessed them and he sent them away, and they went unto their tents that were in Gilead, not in the promised land.
Gotcha.
And see, that's why I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but in Numbers 20, if you only read Numbers 32, you don't get the full story of them asking in 32. Numbers 32, they ask, like you're saying, you're right. But in Joshua 22 is when you see the rest of the story.
Okay. And it seems like also here that, if I'm not mistaken, it seems that they are agreeing that we will settle, or you see the same thing. They're settling for their inheritance here. But then it seems like they are not going to get. Are they getting inheritance also? I don't think they're getting inheritance over in the land. They're claiming it now, correct?
Right.
Even though that's not the will of the Lord, but they're seeing if it's possible, saying, like, I know I have inheritance in the land, but is it okay if we can have it here?
Right. So, in other words, is it okay if we do it a different way than what Yah wants us to do it?
Yeah. And so I do. Yes. I want to say this, but so watch this. We know that if anyone actually goes against the command, it is sin. So watch this. Go to verse 23. This is
in what chapter? In Numbers.
And now watch this.
In Numbers, brethren.
Yeah, Numbers 22, Numbers chapter 32 and 22. So now they were trying to see if there was any exceptions, and there was some discussion because Moses was pushing back, and then they were trying to give their reasoning. Now watch this. This is where they settled, because we know Yah was Moses. So they basically said, and so this is what Yah is saying. This is said here. He's going to say, okay, even though you want to do it your way, I'm going to let you know this. If you do it like this, and you don't fulfill this obligation, you will sin. So verse 22 says this. This is where they would sin if they do this. And the land is subdued before the Lord. Then after that, you shall return and be free of the obligation to the Lord and to Israel, and this land shall be your possession for the Lord. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord. So the moment, so now we see that the transgression against the Lord, where they would sin against him, is now if uh it's now if they go against the agreement. Now this is a different agreement than the first. This is a different thing, that agreement, or this is a different command than the first command, because the first command was for them to go over and possess the land. But now they have a different condition. Now they say, okay, you want this, now you will sin if you don't fulfill your obligation. And this exception was granted, is now that if they don't fulfill it, now they would sin. So it seems that them going and asking and not initially just doing it seemed like it wasn't originally Yah's will, but as you can see that they wasn't in sin yet, because right now he allowed it, and now you see that say, okay, I'm allowing this, but now this will be sin for you if you don't do this. So that's what it appears to be.
It's starting
Yeah,
at
because here's the thing. This is why it's going to be sin. Because when we read back in Numbers, I think it's either 30 or 31, where we talk about oaths.
Okay.
Remember, we talk about oaths, and then even Yeshua said in what was that, Matthew 5:30, 5:33, he said don't do oath. He said either say yes or no. Don't make any oaths. So it will be so when we read that chapter on oaths, I believe it's in Numbers 31, I
Yeah,
think.
with the what woman, with the wife, if she takes an oath,
Yes.
dealing with
Talking about
and
yes.
the father can the husband can annul her oaths, and the father can, if she's in her father's house and something passes through her lips, it's like the authority, the spiritual authority of the father, or the spiritual authority of the husband, and stuff like that.
I had a question about that too,
Mm-hmm.
because they spoke very more about the woman in her father's house, but they didn't say anything about a male in his youth. So if a male was in his youth, that was never mentioned. If he was to take an oath, would he have to bear his iniquity or that too? But I mean, I didn't want to veer too far off, but that just made me remember I had a question about that.
I believe
That's in chapter 30 here. Let's see.
But also the Matthew 5, I'm agreeing as well. Well, I'm pointing out that it was like taken away. These were the laws for the oath when it came to a woman or a girl in her father's house, or a girl with her husband, or a woman with her husband. They didn't mention young males like in their youth at all. But in Matthew, he was like, never mind that. Just make it simple, yes or no. So it was like he took that away in Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
I see. I think I see. I have a chapter to answer your question. I think it's in Numbers chapter 30:2.
Okay, it's right here.
And then Numbers chapter 30:2, and then Numbers chapter 30:3. It covers both cases.
If a man, this is Numbers 32, if a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his bond or his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. If
So
a
you say man as a male though? Because it doesn't mention youth. I think that was more specific to my question. Because it says a woman in her father's house in her youth, if the father, speaks against it, then she will be null and void and she will be forgiven. And so it was all these stipulations, like if she was in her youth in her father's house, and I guess because the man is the head of the woman, but it didn't say anything about a boy. And a boy in his youth, he's still considered a man. So a boy in his youth who is still young, under the age of 20, according to the Bible, all well-bodied men ages 20 and up were men that were able to go to war. So I'm thinking that under 19 and younger is maybe considered youth. But I mean,
That's a good question.
I'm thinking maybe they just say because he's a male that maybe he's being taught. It's just unspoken to not take an oath, or if he does, he's responsible for it. Maybe.
Could be. That's a good question. I don't know enough about Hebrew culture to really respond to that part of it, but that is an awesome thing for me to go back and look at. But just off the top, my assumption, my initial, right here, this word ish is referring to a male in contrast to a woman or female. So that's one way it could be used. So that could explain it.
Got it.
It could be referring to, the male species. I shouldn't say species, but the male. And so if a male, you can read this, if a male, that's my initial. If a male vow a vow unto the Lord. Because remember, Joshua and Caleb initially, I don't think that they were 19 or 20 when they initially started to, especially Caleb. I don't know if he was over 20 when he initially started to show faithfulness and Moses recognized it. Maybe he was. But this word could be used to refer to male as opposed to female.
I could see that being a thing because Josiah was very young when he became a king, and it didn't matter how young he was the next in line, and he was a male. So
he could have made a vow too, and so I believe my initial on what Brother Mark is saying regarding Numbers 30, was it 32? 32, when he talks about, I believe this was an oath that they made. Was it Numbers 32, Brother Mark, when he said, if you don't do this, you've sinned?
It's Numbers 32. You talk about the said?
Yeah, what did you say that was Numbers?
Numbers 32, starting verse 20 though.
Okay.
20 to 20.
Oh yeah.
3.
Yeah, see, they made a vow here. They said, if we do this thing, okay.
Moses put that on them though. Right. Moses said, if you do this, then we'll honor you and let you build these cities. But if you don't,
it'll be said.
So they agreed to it. So they didn't.
No.
They asked for it. They asked for it. Yeah.
Yeah, they asked for it. Moses simply said, hey, we know about vows now. If you do this, if you commit to this vow, but they asked for it. The Reubenites, let's see, where is it? It's right. Hold on, I'm gonna show you. They asked for it because Moses was like, "Wait a minute, man! Don't you remember what happened in Kadesh Barnea? Hold up, dog. What y'all do? What y'all think about?" Yeah, verse 2. Yeah, verse 1. Now the children of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh have very, very great cattle, and when they reasoned, look at their reasoning, guys. They saw. See, this was the problem. They saw the land. This is a big issue. Instead of hearing what the word says in Deuteronomy chapter 1, look at this. This was hearing the word. Deuteronomy 1. Look at this. Notwithstanding, ye will not go up, but rebelled against the commandment. Look at this. He's referring to when you guys know what he's referring to here. Yeah, here it is again. And when we departed from Horeb, we went through all the great and terrible wilderness, which ye saw by the way of the mountains of the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said unto you, ye are come unto the mountain of the Amorites, which the Lord our God doth give it unto us. Behold, the Lord thy God has set the land before thee. Go up. I guarantee this is a command. Go up is a command, and possess it is a command, as the Lord thy God, thy fathers have said unto thee. Fear not, neither be discouraged. And ye came near unto me, every one of you, and said, we will send men before us, and they shall search us out the land, and bring us word again by what way we must go up into what cities we shall come. Watch this. Let me keep going a little bit. And the same pleased me well, and I took 12 men of you, one of every tribe. And they turned and went up to the mountain and came unto the valley of Eshcol and searched it out. And he's recounting this. And they took the fruit of the land in the hands and brought it down unto us and brought us word again. Look at this. Notice this, guys. They brought us word. This word is being repeated, but then it talks about they saw. Watch this. This is huge. This is a huge point. They brought us word again and said, it is a good land which the Lord our God doth give us. Notwithstanding, you will not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of your God. And you murmured in your tents and said, because the land the Lord hated us, he hath brought us forth out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites. Remember, they went in there and they saw that they were large, they were giant, they were bigger than us. Then he says, here, whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven. And moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakims there. Okay, now look at this. This is very interesting. And I want to show you one last verse in Deuteronomy 28 in verse 1. And it came to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice. Remember, word and voice, because watch this, guys. I'm going to connect something. Faith comes by seeing, right? No, faith comes by hearing. He says, you have hearkened diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. The Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Now, let's go back to Numbers. I want to show you this. Now, the children of Reuben, children of Gad, half tribe of Manasseh, had a multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land, instead of hearing the word, they saw. So we already know that faith doesn't come by seeing. And I can make an argument, a case to say that, you know, these two tribes supposed to have tribe of Manasseh, they didn't have the faith to continue in hearing the word. And so we know, based on Deuteronomy 28, that in order to possess the land, you got to be obedient. Either you're going to be obedient or you're going to disobey. I believe these tribes were not in the will, and they did disobey the voice. Although they were, see, here's the tricky part. Just because you make an oath with a man or with mankind, you could be right with man and wrong with God. Come on and go with me here. And so because we think we could be right with man, because man approves, we think that means that we're being faithful to Yah. But in reality, to Yah, this is why these groups of scriptures are grouped together. Matthew chapter 5. Watch this. Look at Matthew. or was it Mark? No, Matthew 5. Well, you know what? Let me go to Mark 8. Okay. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life will, for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it. For what shall it profit a man if he gain the world and lose his own soul? In other words, you cannot be unfaithful to Yah and still think that you are in the will. He says, or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Well, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, they gave up the word of the Lord, the promise, for their own idea of rest in exchange for their own idea. Jeremiah 2. Jeremiah 2 is a wicked, I mean, not wicked, but it reminds them, how can thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone after Balaam. See thy way in the valley, know what thou hast done. Thou art a swift dromedary, I'm not sure, that's interesting, traversing her way. Man, when you read Jeremiah 2, and it talks about all of these things, and then it's connected back to Numbers, and then you read what Yeshua said in 5 and 33, Matthew 5 and 33 here. They can't be, look, they're look, man. This is clear. Again, you have heard that it had been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is his city of the great king, neither shall thou swear by thy own head, which the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half tribe of Manasseh did, because thou cannot make one hair on thy head white or black. But let your communication be yes or no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. He said, look, either say yes to the will of Yah and go into the land, or say no. And that is exactly what the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, they said no to the promised land, no to the commandment. And this is why we see, as Sister Benz pointed out, in Numbers 32 and 9, when they went up unto the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which the Lord hath given them. And the Lord's anger at the same time was kindled. You see that? That's my argument. But that's just one point of view. I don't know. Maybe you guys have a different point of view. But you're gonna have to bring scripture. You got to come straight out of scripture on that one.
Blessings.
Blessings.
I like it. And so look, my initial. So I see your argument, and I'm with you though. But I see where you at. So with that being said, there's some things that we can think about. So the scripture, this is what I'm thinking. That also, what the text is saying, what Yeshua is saying. So I don't. So let me go there. I don't think Yeshua is instructing the people to say, like, you heard that you shall not swear falsely, right? It's in, again, you have heard that it was said to those, you shall not swear falsely, but you perform what you have sworn, or your oaths, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me click on that word real quick. So now, and then he tells, because the thing is, he set them up so that so that they won't get caught up in sin, right? Because because nobody has ever said this before, right? You have never seen no prophet ever say this, because by him saying this, he is setting them up so that, or everybody up so that they won't even, so they won't be in a position where they will be swearing or giving an oath or a vow and being caught up and not fulfilling that vow. Now watch this. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think Yeshua is telling them to like don't swear ever no more. No, don't give no vows. Because we see that the Nazarite vow that Paul took, right? So we see that he took a vow. And then James told him to take a vow and fulfill it. That's what I'm trying to see if it's the same word. But or it has a cognitive connection. But I'm saying that's why I'm saying like we have that thinking too, like, okay, what kind of vow did they take? I mean, what because they have to fulfill that vow. Is that a different than what he said here? That's one thought, and then that's only I'm only trying to prove that he is trying to tell them to be, it's better. He actually because remember the scriptures say that Yeshua will come and he will exalt the commandment. He will take it to the next level, right? He'll get you to the point where you won't even get close to breaking it, right? Where because he'll get to that heart of the matter, and he'll help you not even in your heart the things he's saying here, like about adultery and everything. So I'm saying here, if you follow this instruction here, boy, you will be blameless and never get caught up in a vow and because people were doing it. Some people actually do it all day. Say, I swear, and I mean they say this and put God in all and put y'all in all their own and they're swearing and they take it lightly, and you'll die in that sin. So that's very dangerous. So I just want to bring that to your attention. And lastly, I was thinking to myself, like people, we take even marriage, we take wedding vows. We stand at the altar and we do wedding vows, and this is my initial. I don't think nothing's wrong with that. I don't think it's nothing wrong with taking vows. I just think that he's saying here that Yeshua is basically saying that the vow is that he believes in the Torah. He's not even counseling it out. He's not making nothing null and void. He's basically saying that the commandment still stands. The instructions is there on if you do take a, but he said that in order to never get caught up in and swearing or taking an oath and not fulfilling it. If you don't ever want to get caught up in that, just never do it. Don't put them in it, and you will be faultless. I mean, you will be without fault if you don't even do it. Because a lot of people they end up doing it, but they don't fulfill it. What comes out of their mouth. So, so I just definitely wanted to say that I do see how he is guiding people away from being liars, because he said you should not swear falsely, you should not lie, right? So he's helping people in this area, us to never ever get caught in lying, and helping us be pure, blameless in this area, so we don't ever have to vow and not fulfill our vow. So I just want to say that he's not against it. He's just helping in us to not uh, have a lifestyle of lying, to not have to get caught up in a lie where we can't, where we will. Some people will not fulfill their vow. He say, hey, so I just want to bring that up because I know I see that vow. It appears that I see one example of a Nazarite vow being taken. Like, what is going on with that? You know what I'm saying? It's like so.
I think that's a different word when you look at the in the book of Acts.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting concept to further pursue.
Yeah.
I do think that the Nazarite vow has specific instructions that you're supposed to fulfill. So it's not so much of you making a claim or saying, that you will do this or do that to God or to a human, but there are specific instructions that go along with the Nazarite vow. I don't think that this particular vow that is being referred to here, as Jacob vowed a vow saying, if God will be with me and I will keep me in this way, Genesis 28:20, that I go and I will give bread to eat and raiment to put on. See, this is not a specific, Nazarite vow, but then we have Numbers. I think it's the Nazarite vow and this particular vow. I believe it's a different a vow. Let's see. Maybe the concept is the same. But I do believe see in Deuteronomy 23:21 it says, when thou shalt vow a vow to the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. But if thou shalt forbear to vow, it shall not be sin to thee. And so I think the Nazarite vow, because in this particular word, the Nazarite vow is not even mentioned with this particular word here. Because the Nazarite vow, is it in chapter 6 of Exodus or
It's chapter 6.
Leviticus or Exodus?
Numbers.
It's number 6.
Yeah. What word they use there? Nadar?
Oh, they are using it with the same as Nazarite vow.
Because when I click it, and then you go down to like
they are using it, brother, with the Nazarite vow, chapter 6.
Yeah, because right here they say when I read it, speak to people of Israel, it says when a man or a woman makes a special vow, so it's a unique vow. So it's a vow, the vow of a Nazarite. So there's something that they're not just also saying, but they're what they're carrying out is like it's an oath of a particular ritual what they're doing, right? So of them not, so they have to carry this out, even because the thing is, if you continue to read down, it talks about how if they come in contact with a dead body in verse 6, Lord you should not go near a dead body. But if it happens, they have to start over again, because they have to fulfill this vow. There's no exceptions, and but it seems like it's just a special vow in a particular if they're gonna make this vow, they have to do specific instructions on and fulfilling it, but they have to carry it out the days. They cannot in the days of this vow. So it's a special one, but they have to fulfill it.
I think also this Nazarite vow was, when you say it's special, I think it's special because the word natsir in the Hebrew, it means to draw close or to set apart.
Correct.
And so when you think about the nature of a Nazarite vow is to draw closer to the Lord, to set yourself apart from the world and set yourself close to the Lord. The Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, they were not drawing closer to the Lord. As a matter of fact, I could make an argument saying that they wanted to be separate from the Lord and not go into the land that Abba Yah wanted them to go into. And so they wanted to go to a place where Abba Yah says, my name is going to dwell. where my presence, where my temple is going to be. They wanted to be away from that. So when we look at that, that's not drawing closer. To me, it seems like it's not consecrating themselves and separating themselves to Yah, which would be a special vow, but they made a vow for themselves to be away from the place where Yah said he would put his name. Blessing.
Blessings, I want to respond. So I do agree that there is, they're not trying to draw close to him and through to fulfill his command. I mean, they're not trying to get close to him like a natural, right? I do agree, but I think also we going back to our first argument when we're dealing with the fact that when we're dealing with what Yeshua said in regards to taking a vow, and like you said, that word still shows up. So I would say that all I'm just basically saying is that it appears that when we bring in Yeshua and we're talking about that vow, he definitely is setting us up for not having to not get caught up into lying, and we see that that the word vow also shows up in Acts chapter like 21 or 22 with how Paul took a vow. So and how we take wedding marriage vows. So it definitely appears that it's okay, but we have to fulfill our vows. Blessings.
Blessings. All right. Anyone else would like to land me back or to bring up another point that they had? Awesome discussion here. Good understanding. All right. Well, blessings and shalom to everyone. We're looking forward to seeing everyone on Shabbat. This coming, wait, we have someone tingling. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're having this coming Shabbat, 10 a.m. Try to come a little early, be there. Try to be there a little early, guys. 9:30, we want to share. Invite people from the farmers market. We want to invite people to come in and draw closer to Yah himself. And so we're going to do that. Also, we thank you for those of you who tuned in to our discussion. Hopefully something was said that could bless you, that you could take with you, or even challenge, or even provide more insight on what was being discussed. All right. And so blessings to you. Thank you for tuning in. Blessings.